Dear paddlers, in this video I would like to try to summarize the logistical information you may need in order to go to the Danube Delta. With the kind approval from our guide, I compiled a GPX route of our trip. Also the camping spots are marked. This may be helpful. Not, you can camp anywhere as long as you see a tree standing there, but some stretches are long and it may be practical that you have some advice like that. In the description also there are some contacts for local restaurants or people who would cook a dinner for you if you want. If you travel by plane, you can actually do the whole trip in one day. For example, when we were returning, we were going from the Black Sea coastline city Sulina. We took a boat which went for 2 hours and brought us to the city of Tulcea, which is at the beginning of the delta. From there you take a bus which takes 4 hours to get to Bucharest, to the capital, and from there 2 hours flight and maybe 1 more hour from the airport back home. So we easily managed that in one day. We woke up at 5 a.m. at the Black Sea coast, and then within one day we were easily back. When it comes to the time in the delta, our trip took 2 weeks, and before the trip I was thinking that it is too much, I have other plans, other vacations and so on, so I was not quite excited about it. If you only have 1 week, it is perfectly doable. 1 day travel to the delta, 1 day travel back, and you still have 5 days. Maybe even on the first day you can go directly into the delta and camp there. So this is doable, but I would recommend to have at least 10 days in the delta, because it takes approximately 10 days to cross it on a kayak or on a paddleboard. The Danube Delta is approximately 10,000 years old. It started to be created since the last ice age. And if you spend, let's say, 10 days on the water, you can say that every day is like 1,000 years. And the delta is growing day by day. The Danube River is carrying sediments into the sea, and the delta is extending into the sea. It means that the whole delta is not the same. In the beginning you have more trees, narrow canals, maybe it is the country is more like you may see in other parts of Central Eastern Europe. Then you have more reed, the country is opening up, it is flatter, and many huge lakes the size of multiple kilometers, like Neusiedlersee in Austria or Balaton in Hungary, and similar huge lakes. They are not deep, but the surface area is just impressive. And then you have sand beaches inside the delta. This is because at that point there used to be coast. But as the delta extended deeper into the sea, the beaches just stay there, and you can paddle around sand beaches, but you are not at the sea yet. Then there is also some kind of mountain range or hills deposited from the sand from the beach, which is now overgrown by a protected forest. There are some trees which are said to be 500 years old. It is worthwhile to have a look into the forest. It is necessary to purchase a permit to go into the delta. You can buy it in the city Tuclea, which is at the beginning. This is where you arrive by bus or by car. And I can't remember the cost. It was, I think, 10 euros per person or something like that. During our whole trip no one ever checked it if we have it or not, but just in case, I would say you shall buy it. We did. And also you need to buy a permit in order to do some fishing. Even though it is a national park, fishing is permitted. but I have to say that in summer it's not the season for fishing. That's September, October, and we did not catch anything big, or just very, very small fish, but it was fun. The weather usually is good in summer. The rains don't come often. We only had one storm cloud passing by. It did not reach us. So during our whole trip we just had good weather. It wasn't too hot because the whole area of Delta is flooded with water, and that cools down the air. So it was convenient, but the weather was very nice. The water temperature is very high. Maybe it was special in that summer because that was August 2022, when all the rivers in Europe went dry, and we also had a very low water level in the delta. Maybe that helped with the water temperature, but in general it was very warm. I liked it. Swimming was relaxing. Also, if you were paddling for the whole day and you were completely tired, you still wanted to go swimming in the evening, which is not usual when you go paddling on rivers in the evening. Usually it's cold, the water is cold, and you don't want to go into water in the evening, but that's different in Delta. It was very nice. I would like to address some myths or ideas people may have about the Danube Delta. The first one being the time necessary to go into it. Like I mentioned before, this is an opinion I hear often. People say that, yes, I want to go to the Delta, but I will do that when I am retired because it requires so much time. That's simply not true. The second myth is that it is a wild area. It is not quite the case. It is protected. The birds, the animals cannot be hunted, but all the canals are man-made through the reef. So this is not really a river. The whole delta is just a vast number of lakes interconnected with man-made canals. So this is not really without human influence, and you would think that you are alone or you are lost and maybe it is dangerous. What if happens something to you? How do you get rescue? That's not the case at all. First of all, there are many boats with tourists. You meet maybe 10 or 20 of them every day wherever you are. They are very kind. They slow down. They are not making any waves. People are greeting you, so it is not a bad experience. But if you were thinking that you would be alone there, that's not the case. And the last myth is regarding the nature. People tend to think, and I tended to think, that the moment you come to the delta, you are going to be overwhelmed by the amount of animals and plants, and that it's going to be a jungle, a completely different world. It is not a completely different world. It is amazing, but you have to consider that it is the same climatic zone like Central Eastern Europe or something like that. So you are going to see the same trees, the same plants, and also the same animals. But what's different is how many there are. But this is not something you will see immediately. Yeah. So this is, my first impressions from the first few days were okay. I like it. It's nice. But it's the same like we have in Slovakia, the interior Danube Delta with the side channels. It was very similar, the first impression. But day after day, I was realizing that there are actually many more animals. In our group, our guide was a biology professor who goes to Delta every year since maybe 30 years. And we had also another biology professor and a bunch of students of biology, and thanks to them we got to know the place, the animals much better. If I were alone in the delta, I think I would see 1/10 of what we were able to see because of their experience, because of their knowledge. So that was actually increasing the value of the trip a lot. If you don't have that company, doesn't matter, it is an amazing place, but in our case it made the trip much better.
Raz mi v Suline na pláži pristal rybár pred stanom a vyzeral, že mele z posledného. Kúkam, chvost z ryby mu trčal z papule, sa dusil, tak som to vyťahol a... No poď, papaj. Poď, ježiš, no hám.
Za maminku.
Papaj.
Bzučia tie komare okolo hlavy.
A my nás nemôžeme mať takého doma.
Before the trip I was thinking why it is the case that the guide goes there every year. Of course Delta is nice, but there are also other places in the world. But then after the trip I was thinking more about it, and if you're not looking for white water rapids, then Delta has anything a natural lover can think of. During the trip I was thinking, if I will return to the Delta sometime later, and a few months after the trip, the question is changing. I start to ask myself not if, but when we return again.